It's almost the perfect expression of decadence. Here we have this man, richest man there's ever been, like a Roman emperor on speed, extracting money from his empire in order to pursue the vanity project of all vanity projects, sending himself into space. There's something particularly ironic about Jeff Bezos pouring billions into getting himself into space while promoting the idea that space travel will somehow save us from environmental catastrophe at home. This is a man who runs a corporation called Amazon, named after one of the greatest ecosystems on Earth, which is being hammered by climate breakdown, among other forces, and seeing runaway forest fires, potentially the cascading ecological collapse caused by a combination of deforestation and climate breakdown. And part of that is being caused by the activities of corporations such as, let me think, Amazon. There are some men who cannot be content unless they are burning phenomenal quantities of fossil fuel. And the dream of billionaires now is to burn those quantities of fossil fuel in order to escape the Earth's orbit and go into space. And this dream is entirely consistent with the deeper billionaire fantasy, which is of exit, of escape. They have sought successfully to escape from the constraints of the nation state. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to be regulated. So they move their business through tax havens and secrecy regimes offshore. They're an offshore elite. Everything about them is offshore. And now they want to be off-planet. When Jeff stepped out of his giant fallacy, he said something which could be seen as disarmingly honest, or perhaps it reflects a complete absence of self-knowledge, but he said,
I want to thank every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer, because you guys paid for all this.
They did pay for it. They paid for it in terms of the gross exploitation of their labour, which Amazon engineers, forcing them to piss in bottles because they don't even have time for toilet breaks.
Every Amazon employee, thank you from the bottom of my heart very much.
So Richard Branson, another member of the giant metal phallus class, says, if we can do this, imagine what else we can do. Well, we don't have to imagine it. We've seen what else Richard Branson has done, and none of it is pretty. Trying to move into the NHS, suing the government for not giving him the contracts that he wants, demanding bailouts for his airline company, and putting the money to send himself up into space. And when he says we, who does he mean by we? There's no we in Richard Branson. He's the biggest self-publicist who ever existed. It's all about me with Richard Branson. This is for us, this is for planet Earth, this is for everyone. No, it's not. This is a billionaire's game.
We're building a road to space so that future generations can build the future.
The amazing thing about these billionaires is just how stupid they are.
We live on this beautiful planet. It's the most beautiful planet in the solar system by far. And we have to keep it safe and protect it. And the way to do that is slowly over decades to move all heavy industry, all polluting industry out into space.
Christ.
That's what we're going to do so we can keep this planet the gem that it is.
Here's Jeff Bezos saying we can solve the Earth's problems by building a road into space and shift all the damaging industries into space. I mean, the most basic calculus, just on the back of your hand with a baro, you could work out that that would cause massively greater impacts than any of the industries are causing here on Earth. And the idea that putting someone like Jeff Bezos in charge of some space road project, which incidentally is technically entirely infeasible, when he's made such a horrendous mess of planet Earth already, is a good idea, could only have come from the mouth of an ass like Jeff Bezos. Bill Gates recently wrote a book saying, this is what we can do to solve climate breakdown. He listed all these techno fixes, which were basically just a way of resolving his own guilt trip about his several private jets and his collection of supercars. Disproportionately, to a far greater extent than anyone else on Earth, they are responsible for the greatest crisis humanity has ever faced, a crisis now manifested in the disastrous floods in Germany and Belgium, in the heat dome over the western seaboard of North America, in the floods in Bangladesh, in the sea actually catching fire as a result of gas explosions. If this has a human face, it's the face of those billionaires. I just see them as parasites, people who are sucking the lifeblood of the planet dry. But now they want to ramp this up even further and say, we're not going to just have this unsustainable luxury on this planet, we're going to extend our private luxury into space. We're going to have rockets and pour tons and tons of fossil fuel into those rockets and get ourselves into orbit. This is acceptable because all of you could do this one day.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream. Now I'm an adult in a spaceship. If we can do this, just imagine what you can do.
Sorry, no, all of us can't. The only reason they can do it is that all of us aren't doing it. Because if all of us tried to do it, we would cook the planet in an instant. So the dream they're selling us, nightmarish as it may be, can't actually be achieved anyway. So another crucial question here is, how did they get so rich that they could build their own space rockets? By not paying their taxes. What we see again and again with some of the richest people on Earth is that they are some of the most successful tax avoiders on Earth. They pay far less in percentage terms than I do, than you do. On billions of dollars worth of profits in the EU and the United States, Amazon paid 0 corporation tax. And so they can then spend that money on these ridiculous vanity projects, money which should belong to us, money which should be paying for the health service, money which should be paying for education, money which should be paying for basic human welfare, is instead being squandered on these giant phalluses which they're sending up to space with themselves inside. All it is a massive ego project for men who seem to have something missing. They can't be content with the things that might content the rest of us. Love, self-knowledge, self-acceptance. These things just don't seem to be enough for them. And why might this be? Well, we can argue about nature, about nurture, what the balance between them might be. But it does seem to me that gaining extreme wealth is like acquiring some kind of brain injury. It seems to shut down parts of the human brain. You become less empathetic, less altruistic. There's a lot of science showing the extraordinary differences between very rich people and ordinary people in terms of their empathy and in terms of their altruism, in terms of their ability to understand the lives of others. Something very bad happens to you when you become exceedingly rich. And I think that something shuts off your opportunities for contentment by ordinary means. You must have more and more. The world literally is not enough. They would literally trade the only planet we know that could support us, almost certainly the only planet anywhere that could support us, for a planet which patently could not, on which we would have to live like tadpoles in a jam jar, under the total control of whoever owns that jam jar. And who might that be? Yes, the billionaires! People like Jeff.
This is a very different kind of space colony. Let's take a look at what they might look like inside. High-speed transport, agricultural areas. They don't all have to have the same gravity. You could have a recreational one that keeps 0 G so that you can go flying with your own wings.
Christ.
These are shirt sleeve environments. This is Maui on its best day all year long. No rain, no storms, no earthquakes.
I mean, they think, we can escape all the troubles on Earth. We can leave all those problems of power behind. If we had to live in a controlled environment whose slightest fluctuation would be fatal to us, and if that environment was controlled by those who built it, in other words, those with the money, we would live under their total, unmediated control. With a flick of a switch, they could decide they didn't like their experiment and kill us all. Their godlike powers would exceed by orders of magnitude even the powers they possess on this planet. And yet somehow this has been sold to us as some kind of desirable future, as something we should aspire to, something aspirational. That's not a dream, that's a nightmare.
But these are beautiful. People are going to want to live here.
We're told that our future lies in space exploration. Our future lies in Earth exploration. We've scarcely even mapped the soils on the Earth's surface. We don't even know what's where, let alone how we can use it in ways which don't destroy that soil, the very basis of our subsistence. We are remarkably ignorant about life forms on this planet, about ecosystems on this planet, and that ignorance helps to fuel our destruction. If we put our efforts into knowing and understanding and loving this planet, rather than pouring billions into flattering the ego of billionaires, if instead of allowing them to be billionaires, because every billionaire is a policy failure, we redistributed that wealth and sought the general well-being and prosperity of humankind, we would all be so much better off. I work with Double Down News because it bursts out of that tiny, limited box which the media creates and allows us to see aspects of the world which we're not being shown by other broadcasters. So please support Double Down through Patreon and support the alternative we so desperately need.